We are going to begin our study of natural selection by visiting one of the most biodiverse places on the earth, and that's the Galapagos Islands. Natural selection is the idea that the organism that is best suited for the environment will be the one that survives and then thrives in that environment. So why study the Galapagos Islands? The inhabitants, the organisms that make up the Galapagos Islands, are really in their natural state. There's no interference from humans there because 97% of the Galapagos Islands is a national park. So it is all very protected, and they take very good care to make sure that human interference doesn't interfere with the biodiversity of the Galapagos Islands. There are so many different interesting animals here, like my buddy here, the Galapagos tortoise, so important and so famous that they named the entire archipelago after my buddy right here. So let's get started by finding out where exactly are the Galapagos Islands. Where are the Galapagos Islands? Well, if we leave here from Parker Middle School and we put in the Galapagos Islands, it's going to fly us on down to South America and right off the coast of Ecuador. These are the Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands are an archipelago, which is a group of islands or an island chains. You might be more familiar with Hawaii. Hawaii is also an archipelago. They are volcanic. They lie on a tectonic plate, and they started with this island here, Hispaniola. And as Hispaniola moved, or the tectonic plates moved, these islands moved as well, and they started forming all these different other islands. There's about 19 altogether, with hundreds of islets that are small islands all over. Isabella is the largest island, and then Fernandina is one of the newest islands, and the latest, or the last time Fernandina erupted, it was in January of 2020. The Galapagos Islands lies off the coast of Ecuador in South America. And if I take my ruler, we can do a measure and see just how far off there. Let's add a point, and it is about a little over 650 miles off the coast of Ecuador. Why study the Galapagos? Of all the places in the world, why are we focusing in on this group of islands off the coast of South America? One of the reasons why is its biodiversity, or its variety of organisms that live there. Another reason is because there are some organisms that may exist only in one spot in the world. On one of the 19 islands in the Galapagos, this pink iguana exists. Why is it only in that one spot in the entire planet? Also, this is the place where Charles Darwin first noticed how well suited organisms were for the different islands that he visited. For example, these are what's known as Darwin's Finches. These finches are all belong to the same family. However, take a look at those beaks. Why are the beaks so different for these four birds? Well, the ones at the bottom have nice, thin, sharp beaks to get into areas where insects might live, where the upper beaks of those birds are good enough for cracking large seeds and tearing into the rinds of fruit that may exist on the different islands. Who is this Charles Darwin? He was an English naturalist. He studied plants and animals. He spent 5 years aboard a ship called the HMS Beagle, mapping the world's coastlines for the British Navy. While on this mission, he spent 5 weeks in the area known as the Galapagos Island. There he collected samples, he made observations, and he journaled everything that he saw. This trip would later form his theory of evolution through natural selection. Natural selection is that the species best suited for its environment will succeed and pass on its genes and traits to their offspring. It's sometimes also called survival of the fittest. We'll have a whole separate lesson on this in the future. So right now, let's get back to the Galapagos. I have a question right now for you. How did all of this life get there? I understand that there are things like seed dispersal that we talked about in our plant unit, where the wind could easily take seeds from the mainland of South America and get them there over to the Galapagos Islands. There are birds that fly long distances that could make it all the way to the Galapagos, and those birds could definitely poop out something that they ate, and those seeds could germinate and turn into plants. So we've got birds like the albatross that can fly for thousands and thousands of miles that may land at the Galapagos to take a break or make a home there. We've got birds like the blue-footed booby. That's right, I will wait for a couple seconds until you stop giggling. Okay, the blue-footed booby makes its nests on the islands, and they raise their hatchlings there. You've got the magnificent frigate bird with its big red pouch that makes its home on these islands. And of course, you've got no-brainers like sea lions that make their way to the Galapagos Islands. But we've got to remember, the Galapagos Islands are 600 miles off the coast of South America and Ecuador. How does the land iguana get there? There are penguins in the Galapagos Island. I need to remind you that the Galapagos Islands lie right on the equator. That information might not make sense in your head, thinking, wait, don't the penguins like the cold? How can penguins exist there? How did they get there? And also, these guys, the giant Galapagos tortoise. If you don't know, tortoises don't swim. This tortoise is a land organism. How did this large organism get there? So that's my discussion question for you for this lesson. How did the animals that cannot swim end up on the Galapagos Islands? I want you to come up with some theories and place your theories about how these different animals, land lizards, or land iguanas, the penguins, and the tortoises, I need you to come up with theories as to how they got there, and then we're going to answer that question in the upcoming lesson.